I am so excited for this game. George R. R. Martin is my favorite author of all time. I love the Game of Thrones show, probably my favorite TV show, and Dark Souls is my favorite video game. This is literally a match made in heaven for me. You could say that my expectations are high, but that would be like a huge understatement. I'm of course talking about Elden Ring, the newest upcoming game from Software, the studio that has brought us so many great games in the Soulsborne series. Some of the hardest games nowadays. So hard that frequently games journalists get really mad at them. But just as dark and grim as Dark Souls is, Game of Thrones manages to do just the same. It will get your hopes and expectations up just to crush them all over again. Just ask anyone who watched the last season of the show. Today, we're talking about every tiny little shred of detail that we have for this game. And I have been pretty extensive in my research. I've found all kinds of little tidbits from interviews with Miyazaki already, and I've dissected the trailer over and over again, just to be able to bring you guys as much information as possible about this upcoming game. So let's get right into it. And of course, if you guys like this video, don't forget to give it a like. And if you have any information about the game or theories about the game, go ahead and share them below so that everyone who watches this can find out about them too. So the biggest piece of news and information that we have on Elden Ring is that it is going to be in a supposedly a Norse or a Celtic setting, but it's leaning towards Celtic based upon all of the information that we have on the game so far. Beyond that, it's also going to be a massive open world with multiple kingdoms. This is going to be bigger than any other Dark Souls game or Soulsborne game, and George R. R. Martin had a big part in this world. He built the lore for it himself. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Horseback riding is going to be in the game, so you're definitely going to be traveling some large distances. Co-op and PvP may be bigger than ever before in this entry and have more content for it than ever before. In the past, there's been different clans where you may be able to unlock a few items, but I'm expecting there to be a lot more focus on co-op and the different factions in the game. You know there's going to be more lore this time around, just spread out all over the world in all the nooks and crannies, and there's even going to potentially be warring factions or kingdoms and some kind of political intrigue system. Now this is some heavy speculation, but Miyazaki did say that he admires Martin's use of politics and drama and that that's what he's best at. So we may see some of that play out in the actual campaign to the game, or we might actually just hear about it in the lore. But I think it would be really cool if we were able to actually see some of that happen. So the number of connected kingdoms that you travel to and the cover art of the game, as you can see here, is these interlocked and connected rings, which seem to be hinting at, the powerful different kingdoms, as well as, the whole Lord of the Rings motif. We all know that Miyazaki and Martin are both big fans of Tolkien, like most people who like fantasy. So the plot of the game, as we kind of got a hint at in the first teaser trailer, the first cinematic trailer, is that there's this mysterious cosmic artifact, the Elden Ring, and it has somehow been destroyed, and the ramifications of that are ringing out across a sprawling open world that, you're going to adventure through in this game. You might possibly be traversing this world so that you can reconstruct this Elden Ring or craft one of your own with the power of these different lords, very similar to the Lord Souls in Dark Souls. Miyazaki was also quoted as saying that Elden Ring is a mysterious concept that defines the world itself. So again, this is probably some kind of creation device that created this world. So of course, like all the other Souls games, this is going to be a classic dark fantasy tale, and of course that's because George R. R. Martin is involved as well, and he does really dark really well. Miyazaki promised us a variety of not only unique, but also horrifying bosses, so I'm expecting more of that Bloodborne flair for the grotesque here. They're going to bring to life creatures from the mind of George R. Martin. I mean, just think about that. All the weirdest things that you've heard him write about in his books, they're going to actually be able to bring those things to life. That's just like, wow. We have some potential other hints from that same trailer, including missing arms, which is possibly a reference to, and we're getting a little bit weird here, Nauda, the High King of the Tuatha De Danann. I hope I pronounced that right. It's Tolkien's Elven King, and he also had an arm made of silver replacing one that he lost in battle, similar to the red-headed woman in the trailer who lost it. So that king lost his arm fighting Fomorians, which is a kind of a sea demon race, which is also hinted at in Irish mythology, which is again these Celtic roots. And even the person with the hammer in the trailer had like Celtic braid in their hair potentially. So we're definitely, even the Elden Ring iconography itself could be hinting at like the interconnected artwork of the Celtic style. That braid of the blacksmith is a reference to the goddess Brigid, who was the god of crafts and smiths in the Celtic pantheon. And then there's also this really disturbing concept art image they released of someone wearing a robe made of skin, human skin. I don't know what to make of that lore-wise, but maybe Roose Bolton is on the loose. The Roose is loose! So Miyazaki also said that he believes that there's going to be more customizations and ways to approach the game, which will probably include different fighting styles, and there's going to be more than in any previous Souls game, which is really exciting. For me, the Souls games were always so great because every single weapon has its own swings, and each weapon has at least like 3 or 4 different swings that you can do with it usually. So you can really mix up your combos and your timing, and since the game is all about timing, that just adds to such a rich gameplay experience. You can play through Dark Souls and just play the game totally differently, like 5 times. You can play through the game with totally different play styles. That's what I'm really looking forward to about this game, is being able to, delve back in over and over again, because I think I'm going to like this just as much as the original From Software masterpiece. He also hinted at some kind of bigger stuff happening that he said he couldn't do in any of the Dark Souls comparably linear experience, and we could just endlessly speculate on that one. There's definitely still going to be a heavy RPG focus, he confirmed, building your own unique character. It's not like some kind of story that's already mapped out for you. You are the hero of the game again. And unfortunately, that's really all we know about the game itself so far. We don't have any names of any places you go in the game. We don't have any gameplay looks yet, not quite. But we also do know how George R. R. Martin got involved with the game. Miyazaki said that George R. R. Martin got involved because, of course, he was a big fan of Game of Thrones and other writings from Martin, including in particular a vampire novel called Fever Dream. The business director at From Software then reached out to Martin, knowing that Miyazaki was a fan, and he expected to be turned down, but to their surprise and all of our newfound excitement, Martin accepted, and he and Miyazaki went on to have a series of meetings leading to Martin writing out the overarching mythos for the game world itself. And I want to take note that he says it's filled with a plethora of mystical, mysterious elements and drama. I'm expecting the world to have deeply tucked away ancient secrets, tons of political intrigue, like we've said, warring and conspiring factions, possibly. That's not something that's been possible in Dark Souls before, and I'm really excited to see that on a grander scale, and maybe even to see like a tiny weensy bit more life in the game. George R. R. Martin was tasked with writing the history and lore, so he didn't actually write the story of the game Elden Ring itself that you're going to play through. But they said that was to give him as much freedom as possible to take the world in any direction that he wanted to, because developers typically are more constrained in the path of the game itself because of, the technical limitations. Though he didn't write the campaign, it is entirely based upon the foundational writing of Martin. This will still be a Dark Souls game, so you will have to delve deep into the world to get all those intriguing little tidbits of lore. Personally, I just love that, and I couldn't be more excited for this game. Nothing else even comes close to comparing at this point. Not The Last of Us 2, nothing. Not even Cyberpunk for me. Miyazaki said himself that it's hard to contain his excitement, and I'm sure as you agree, we can all relate. Well, that's everything I know about Elden Ring, but maybe you know something I don't. Let us know in the comments. Also, like this video, share it anywhere people talk about Dark Souls or Game of Thrones or Elden Ring, and maybe even subscribe to the channel. We do a lot of gaming news and gameplays and other funny videos. Above all else though, guys, have a nice day, and don't forget to play some video games.
This eye is not merely seeing reality, it is touching the truth.